But we're also seeing a rollback of these types of large actuators in the marketplace, and that's not good. So Chinese travel is being rolled back, Russian travel is being rolled back, large meetings, incentive, conventions, events also being rolled back.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Nadia. I'm the marketing manager here at Bukit Vista, and I'm currently at our new onboarded villa in Jimbaran. It's called Kaja Azri. It's very nice and super sunny outside here in Bali. And yeah, hi Jing, how are you? And where are you right now?
All right. I'm actually in San Francisco right now,
Hmm.
and I'm usually traveling to San Francisco a few times a year. So I'm outside the headquarters of Airbnb right now. So if you can
Hmm.
see their building is right over there across the
Hmm.
street. And before it was a bit easier to actually go inside. The lobby used to be open and anybody could actually work from the space. So it was a great option when we were hosts. And also when I was an employee, we'd go down to the atrium to use the space to work. Wi-Fi was free and it was very public. But I just went over and security has told me that ever since COVID, the inside of the building has been successfully locked. So I'm sitting out at Pete's Coffee now across from the Airbnb headquarters, which is not as real as it would be if I was actually in there. But let's do this. Let's do some market insight.
Yeah, yeah, sure. You can show around what happened there in San Francisco and also near the Airbnb building there. But
Sure,
anyway,
sure,
we're
sure,
gonna
absolutely.
do the updates on the market insight through our Bali Business Review channel here.
Okay.
So, Jing, I have this topic discussion with you. So, this
Mhm.
is about the upcoming month of March, the 2025. In March, we will have Ramadan for the Muslim community, and
Yeah,
also in the end of it is gonna be the Eid al-Fitr, also for the Muslim community. And
correct.
the 29th of March is gonna be Nyepi for the Hindu in Bali. So how do you see the Bali rental market shaping up in March, considering those religious like activities, Nyepi, Ramadan, and also Eid al-Fitr?
Okay. Let's go through each at a time. So the every particular month of the year will generally have a major holiday. And for this year, we have two major holidays for two major religions. For Balinese Hindus, it'll be Nyepi. And for those in the Muslim community, it will be Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr, which shortly follow Ramadan. Based on what we can understand this year, I guess the main questions are, should we expect more impact on the demand side from Eid al-Fitr and from Nyepi than previous years? So let's
Yep.
go ahead and answer the first question first. Does Nyepi really affect rentals in Bali? And the
Mhm.
answer is not a whole lot. And the reason is
Okay.
because Nyepi currently is not a holiday that attracts very many arrivals to Bali. So
Mhm.
that being like, let's say, for example, let's say a DJ like Tiesto or Diplo or any famous DJ that is about to play at a major beach club. Okay? Let's say they have a next gig at Bali. So then you can somewhat expect that particular music or music festival is bound to draw a lot of people from outside this local environment to travel to Bali. But Nyepi is very much a Bali festival. So, yes, we have been seeing, let's say, a slight increase every year, the attractiveness of Nyepi in terms of its ability to fascinate and inspire foreigners. But as of now, it's not a major, let's say, a destination event that you would expect, let's say, Australians or other nationalities to fly in from. That being said, Nyepi is typically always it's a push, I would say, on existing tourism. So many visitors I've seen, they now, instead of flying out during Nyepi, they will simply extend over Nyepi. Okay. So based on that, what you're probably seeing is not necessarily an increase, but just no loss on short-term rentals. So let's say there was a Australian family or let's say a German family that was staying in Bali a few days before Nyepi. Because of Nyepi's overall impact on the infrastructure and the transportation, such that everything is closed, the tendency before in previous years was that people would try to escape Bali before the actual events of Nyepi rolled around. So nowadays, what I'm seeing the tendency is that once again, remote work, more flexible work schedules, it allows for travelers to stay through the process of Nyepi. And it's a very enjoyable process now rather than being
Mhm.
a sort of like a deadline to leave Bali. So at most, you're probably going to see some extension of stays that essentially were already initiated before Nyepi. But as far as Nyepi being a attraction to draw in, let's say, people who weren't intending to come to Bali in the first place, that probably will have very limited effect. Okay. So Nyepi
Mhm.
is a small one, probably not going to have a big impact. So let's talk about Idul-Fitri. Idul-Fitri is what is equivalent, I think, to the Muslim world of what Christmas and Chinese New Year is to the
Yep.
Christian and the Chinese religion
Mhm. Yep. Correct.
universe. It's the big reunion day, right? It's the big kind of holiday where everybody has their homecomings, everybody saves up money to spend. And so it doesn't have large economic impact, but let's go ahead and take a look at essentially where we're expecting that impact to come from. Fitr is normally celebrated in Muslim majority nations. So you would expect, let's say, folks coming from, let's say, the Gulf states, Dubai, Emirates, these particular nationalities might be tempted to travel to, let's say, Bali during these holidays. So far, while looking at flight schedules, I have not seen any increases either in the price or in the quantity of flights being offered, connecting from, let's say, Doha or Dubai or any of the regular spots, even Istanbul. So I'm not sure whether or not that is a good leading indicator on, let's say, anticipation for arrivals. It really is not. So you would expect that, let's say, if there is going to be a rise in potential Muslim visitors during their major holiday to Bali, that you would expect to see the plane tickets start going up in price, and also perhaps extra allocations of flights being scheduled to arrive from Gulf states to Bali. But so far, upon a quick inspection, haven't seen that. Perhaps they've been bought already, but I just haven't noticed any particular uptick on that particular spike in demand. Let's go to the other segment then. The other big segment and the reliable segment is the Indonesian domestic market coming over the Idul-Fitri holidays. Should we expect more or less? I would say that this year, especially in Indonesia, you've been seeing essentially a shrink in the middle class. The popular sentiment these days that the middle class is losing ground. They're not as, let's say, rich or have as much disposable income as in previous years. So that's somewhat to be expected. We're seeing essentially contraction in a few major spaces. The commodity space, once again, is essentially stalled due to some geopolitics with, let's say, the Chinese and the Americans. So we're not seeing, let's say, this globalized effort of China taking resources and then selling to America for profit and uplifting Indonesian commodity rates due to that. That's not as, let's say, a functioning mechanism as it was before, let's say, this kind of new Cold Wars happens between the US and China. So as a result, what you're seeing is essentially you're seeing a drop in demand for commodities that Indonesia generally provides, like palm oil, like lithium, not lithium, but like nickel, things that go into the leading industries. So as a result, the Indonesian middle class, which is highly dependent upon the commodity markets, is not seeing as much, let's say, income or as much disposable money. So they might be traveling just within Java this year and maybe not making these more expensive, more high profile trips to Bali. So in that sense, this particular is another addition to this idea of market turbulence, right? In previous years, you would see essentially positive factors accelerate and even uplift the feedback cycle for demand. Whereas this year, the demand at best can be expected to be maybe the same, if not worse than previous years. So those are my two outgoing, I would say those are my two outgoing predictions of this Edo Fitri and this Nyepi.
Okay. So you basically you predict that there will be like a slowdown in the tourist and also expat mobility in Bali. So how do you expect the rental price to behave like in March? Will we see like price drops or we're gonna be stable or you will see unexpected spike?
I think based on, let's say, the macroeconomic factors right now. Okay, so I'm actually just going on a few websites right now to check it out. You can do the same, Nadia, if you'd like. You can go to Momondo, Skyscanner. So you can just take a casual search and look at outbound flights from Doha, from Dubai, from Istanbul to Bali during the end of Ramadan. Okay. And what you should see upon a quick visual inspection is that the rates for those dates are not spiking up. right now.
Yeah.
So those are the general outbound main ports of exit from the majority areas of the world that would be essentially coming inbound to Bali. Now, this is the traditional groups of people that would essentially come to Bali from the Gulf states. The highest concentration of, let's say, Muslim travelers would be coming from or leaving from these particular destinations. So if we're not expecting too much increase in demand, let's say compared to a previous year, all right, and then we're also expecting more supply, of course, to reach the market within the end of the month. Then once again, where are high prices likely to come from? Now, one of the things that is maybe an insight that is valuable is not all properties are going to be affected by market turbulence in the same
Mhm.
way. So I think it's important to consider whether or not, let's say, for example, three and Nyepi tend to be where there's more demand for larger size properties. So that means your 3, 4, 5 bedroom properties tend to be experiencing a higher demand. Now,
For family
that can be great.
reunion.
Correct, correct. So generally, these holidays are where families are brought together. People like to share one roof, one kitchen, one living room, and many bedrooms. So
Mhm.
during these particular periods where there's a higher concentration of family trips, and then certain marketplaces, let's say, that have this kind of density and this kind of ability to, I guess, this kind of capacity to allocate for larger groups, they'll probably do fairly better than another day. Okay. So your Seminyak large villas, your Nusa hotels, your Ubud retreat type properties, all likely to do fairly well. The one uptick in trend that we see consistently these days is the attraction of nature type trips for people coming from the Middle East, actually. So we've seen this in Sidaman and we've seen this in Kitamani. That a lot
Okay.
of the travelers going to these particular regions where it's green, lush, waterfalls, they tend to attract a lot of, I guess it's natural, right? If you live in a
Yeah.
desert, that's paradise, isn't it? Someplace that's green and lush and full of
Mhm.
water. So we do see essentially these particular regions do draw a particular focus. But for the most part, I wouldn't expect prices to rise for most regions. Canggu, these particular areas are unlikely to see major spikes in, like, say, being the prices due to the influx of future travelers this year.
I see. No, but okay. So coming to my last question, Jing,
Oops.
in general, in March, whether we will have the Ramadan, the Nyepi, the al-Fitr, do you think the market will stabilize after March, or will the
Uh,
turbulence continue?
I think it'll get better. We have to remember, as I said in the previous video, that February is generally the worst month of the year in
Mhm.
terms of travel. And that's pretty much because of it's a fundamental fact that not a lot of not a
Yeah.
lot of holidays pass through February.
Yep.
So there's a lot of holidays towards the winter months in December, January. And then there's the spring holidays that happen with let's say Ramadan, with Nyepi, Mardi Gras. There's more holidays that happen kind of turn the spring. As you get closer to the summer, there's of course peak holiday season
Yeah.
across many different cultures. So we should be expecting, let's say, the turbulence to at least on the demand side to level out.
Mhm.
But on the same side, the supply is constantly increasing, right? So it's not like
Yep.
there's a slowdown in the number of properties being released in the market. In fact, that's steadily climbing. At best, I would hope for, let's say, the same or maybe slightly even lower prices than 2024 this year. But
Mhm.
at worst, if let's say the demand isn't rising nearly as quickly as the supply is rising, then
Mhm.
even though the demand is, let's say, better than a previous month, it probably won't catch up to what the same month was last year for pricing. So that's the best I can see for now. Once again, the overall market is not necessarily the exact situation for every particular business in the market. There are many different niches. There are many different micro niches. There's many different types of experience that do have the ability to capture different segments. But overall, I don't see essentially too much improvement at this point until major things happen. Let's say number one, if Chinese travelers start coming back in bulk numbers, that's going to do
Okay.
great. Okay. That's excellent. Recently, I think you, Nadia, shared to me some information about how hotel associations were looking at a drop off on
Yeah.
MICE. MICE means meetings, incentives, conventions, and events.
Yeah.
These are essentially destination type events that
Yeah.
draw large numbers of travelers to a particular location. And we're seeing now the government and also many organizations are cutting back
Yep.
on these
Like
type of event
G20.
planning. Yeah. Yeah. P20 was fantastic when it happened. It brought a lot. If nothing else, the events just simply they soak up a lot of availability
Hmm.
that, let's say, would not be in direct competition with people with vacation rentals.
Hmm.
So let's say a large event came in here and they took up all the hotel space in major areas, then the only remaining supply would be then vacation rentals. Then
Yep.
that would then offer, let's say, competitive rates to anybody who lives in part of the event looking for accommodations on the same dates. But we're also seeing a rollback of these types of large actuators in the marketplace, and that's not good. So Chinese travel is being rolled back, Russian travel is being rolled back, large meetings, incentive conventions, events also being rolled back. So those are really strong actuators of demand that can move prices in a more favorable direction. So those are all drying up right now. So until we see big movements of those categories coming back in Bali, I would stay conservative on the expectations. Now, is March going to be better than February? Yeah, most likely it will be better than February just based on more holidays overlapping on March. Is April likely to be better than March? Probably, yeah. But it's all a matter of essentially how quickly the supply is being released on the market versus how quickly the demand is coming back. And for the most part, I'm not seeing any indicators in the broad sense of where we're seeing the demand come back faster and more quickly than 2024
I
on any
see.
particular month.
I
So
see.
if you're getting the same prices of last year, congratulations, you're doing really good already. If you're getting lower prices, that's normal. If you have to go really low to compete, that's probably going to be the rigor of the next few months to see. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much, Jing, for the
My
informations.
pleasure.
And yeah, I hope it's available for everyone who watch and also listens to this market insight updates. And we'd love to talk more about any market insight, maybe the upcoming months of April, about what happened with the government cuts out the large meeting, or maybe about the development that happened in Uluwatu or Canggu, or if you have any topic that you would like to us to talk about and discuss about, please don't forget to leave it in the comment section, and we'd love to keep you updated on it. Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
it for today's session, Jing. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
for having me again. Yeah, always a pleasure to be at the Market Insights. And yeah, as you said earlier, Nadia, I'm totally open to answer the hardest questions that anybody might have, and also to discuss through the lens of experience,
yeah,
data, wisdom on any particular new insight or direction that we haven't explored yet. This is supposed to be more of a dialogue than just a one-way conversation. So look forward to hearing from our audience on their comments and feedback.
sure, yeah. And also, if you agree, please leave in a comment. If you disagree with the statements from our CEO Jing, please also leave it in a comment. We'd love to explore more. Okay, thank you so much for today's
Sounds good.
session, and have a good day. Bye bye.